Hey, top of the morning to you. I'm Michael. Grandkids call me Rude. Thanks for being on. It's May 18th, 2024. Hard to believe, right? I've been streaming here to this community on Roodoodles Live, Roodoodles 857 for 4 years and a couple months. Started in March of 2020. Some of you have been riding shotgun. Some of you have been driving. I've been riding shotgun painting for that long. Thank you for being a part of what I do here on Saturday mornings, but also kind of what I do all the time. And that's kind of what today is about. Started with this blank piece of paper. You saw it there. I think if you didn't, I'm going to do it again in just a minute to show you how easy this can be. Boom, there it is. This little rooster just appeared out of the colors. And why? Because I dropped the colors kind of where I wanted them to be dropped. And then I just used, in this case, I used a dagger brush, a bigger one. I could have used any of these. My bamboos, my American Journeys, my Joe Miller's pseudo sables. I could use any of those to form this into the shape that I wanted it to look like, because I'm not trying to stay in between the lines, okay? And so I'm going to say hello to some of you here this morning, and then we're going to get moving, and we're going to talk about, did you know this? Did you know it's only about, I like it when Siri, I plug in my maps and it says, in about 2 miles. And you're like, in about 2 miles? What is about 2 miles? Is that right? At 2 miles? Is it kind of 2 miles? All right. So in about 30 days plus, it's going to be summer. So what are you going to do with your art this summer? So I'm going to start pushing toward that. And I'm going to start today pushing you a little bit. Let me say hello to you. Got a pen in my pocket, which I normally don't have. I'll keep it up there. I'll remember. It's my, yeah, that's fine. All right, so here we go. Let me just pop this open just a little bit here. So top of the morning to you, and let me just say hello to some of you here. It looks like Lori Stanley, Handelmeyer, Henderson. Blessed Saturday to Ruin Crew, and Miss Carla's on today. Pat Brooks, blessings to you, my friend. Hope you're well. I'd like to tell you there's a lot of hot dog money coming, but you know, books are books. I find myself quoting more of Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle and than I ever do selling any. So James O. Wade Jr. I like it if I had an O in the middle of my name. Michael O. James O. Karen Binder, thanks for being on the show today. Jean Anthalzer, thank you for being here. Denise Albright, always from Exeter, California. Well, how do you know when you've taken the right Exeter? And also Trish Brown, good to have you on the show this morning. Yeah, I heard the rains were coming a little bit, but it rained here yesterday. We've got a little bit of, it started raining here last night, so I think it's supposed to end today. But man, did we have a frog strangler the other night. I don't know why they call it that, because I've never seen a frog strangled. June Jones, welcome to the show. Jason Nicholas, great to have you on, my dear. He says, good morning, creative souls. Man, what a great way to, that's a great salutation. Is it salutation? Or is that the one you end with? I don't know. I didn't do well in English. Can you tell? K. Marie Piker to Valerie Prazy. Thanks for being on the show. Boom, boom, boom. Y'all are saying hello to each other. Catherine Brousseau, thank you for being on the show. Sue, such New Orleans there with the Brousseau. Donna Buckley, thanks. Donna, I think you know, Donna, of course, is the Paints Gray. Donna sent me a little piece of paper. She sent me several little pieces of paper, and I think I painted a couple of them and sent them back, but Donna sends me a little paper. Let me go to my desk here and I'll show you. She sent me some little bitty paper like this right here, this shape. Isn't that a cool little shape? Look at this. Can I do that? Oh, you ever see people do that with a coaster? Oh, he did it. Look at that. Oh, man, I should pull back the camera. He goes, did it again without knocking my coffee over, my tea over this morning. These are fun to paint bees on. This is interesting little paper. It feels, it's made like cold press, and it's got a dimple on it, but it doesn't have a whole lot of tooth compared to this 140 Kilimanjaro. There's no cotton in it, but it's okay. You can learn to paint on whatever you have. You just have to learn to paint and pay attention to the use of what water does. Does it seep in? Does it broadcast out? Does it hold on to the color? Does the pigment seek and dry fast? If you learn all of those things, and I'm going to tell you, maybe that's what you should do this summer. Maybe you should just make a note and say, this summer, I'm going to try 4 pieces of paper, and I'm going to do the same thing. Build yourself a scientific baseline. Do I sound like Mythbusters? We got to get a base. Build yourself a base. Same brush, same kind of the best you can amount of water, and then add a drop of paint, and then watch what it does for a little bit. Go make tea, come back and go, ooh, look how that changed while I was away. Or add 2 drops of color on it, or figure out your own baseline. Don't spend a ton of time doing this, because there's some creativity in that because you're learning. But then there's some time where you go, I need to paint something or I'm going to blow up a bridge here. So you got to get into that a little bit. So Donna Buckley, thanks for the paper. Pat has sent me some before. Several of you have. And you say, ooh, I'm using this. Pat sent me this gigantic little pad that I use sometimes. It's about half the size of this. It's a little, it has a great name, and I can't remember what it's called. It's called Hinge, or I think it is Stonehenge. That's a Stonehenge paper, I believe is what it is. And it's not made out of stone, but it's a good paper. I had some larger pieces before, but it's really good. Laura Logan, thanks for being on the show. Sue Kane, all the way from the other side of the world. Awesome. Glad you're on the show today. And Terry Tardy Turquoise is on the show today. Well, that stops it right there. I'm going to have to put a little turquoise in something. Let's see what we got here. I can throw some in just real quickly. Here we go. Terry, here's good morning to you. Oh, I like it very much. So you can always come back to your paintings. In fact, this is still being a little wet. So watch what's happening here. See this black that's rolling, this Payne's gray that I put there, it's rolling into this yellow because I'm holding it down, tapping it a little bit. I kind of like that, huh? So I'm going to do another one of these and just sort of control it a little more to show you how I did it. If you're not painting something loose like this, that's your original design, push toward doing that this summer. That's why I did this. Started off with a little post this morning about blank sheet, how fast it is to change a blank sheet. And then I'm going to show you something else that I do sometimes when kids go, I don't understand how you paint that detailed and precise. I'm going to show you how I do that too. Okay, so Laura Abbott, thanks for being on the show. Donna Sell Barton, great to have you, my friend. Michelle Price Hamilton. Wow, look at all you people pile on here this morning. We do. All right. We did sell 1 copy of Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle last week. The first copy sold since January 2023. Yeah, I think that's probably the truth. Fabulous. I talk about it all the time. And honestly, you know what? The more I read it, the more I think it really helps me. And I hope it would help some of you. The book is available on Amazon. You can get it. It's called Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle, and it really has some good ideas in it. It has some stories in it that'll connect you to sort of me and my past and the route that I took. Pat did the artwork in it, but the rules in there, and I just sent Cheap Joe's a little creative piece. I don't know if they'll run it or not. They asked me to do a little creative piece. And it literally says, if I don't noodle, doodle, fiddle, or piddle with something every day, I feel like I've wasted time or lose a little bit of my edge. And so that's why 857 is so important to me. 857, added up, it equals 20. If you work on your art 20 minutes a day. Yesterday, I worked on my art for 3 hours. 3 hours. I took myself out to lunch. Oh, it was a fabulous lunch. It was Chick-fil-A. But I hadn't been inside the Chick-fil-A. I live 3 miles from a Chick-fil-A. I live 1.5 miles one direction to one and 3 miles the other way. So I went to the 3 mile one because I didn't mind the driving distance, and I went over there. And so here's what happened. I got to tell you this. This is a true story. A true story. I get there, and there's a young lady outside that I remembered. And she's been in the drive-thru. I've gone through the drive-thru. Don't think I haven't eaten there, but I haven't been in the restaurant. I used to go there back before I started this show. I'd go there and I'd sit and have a lunch, and I'd paint a little something, and I'd post it before I'd leave at lunch. And so Philip would always come over and he'd say, "Hey man, what you painting today?" And I said, "Oh, here, this one's for you, but I'm painting this, and this one's for Morgan, and this one's for Becky, and so." But I'll post one, and if I sell it before I get home, it's paid for my lunch. And he goes, "You're crazy." And I go, "Maybe, but maybe I'm not." And so he and I became very, very good friends about food service talk and work and just family and life and love and faith and just fabulous stuff. It was a great time there. But sort of after COVID, I really didn't go back anymore. So it's been 4 years of that. And I sort of pulled away because I was re-gearing up with a busy world. Anyway, the long story is yesterday I went, and as I walked in, a young lady sort of stepped over in front of me, and I recognized her as Morgan. I said, "You're Morgan." And she said, "You haven't been here in a long time." And I said, "How long has it been, Morgan? Because you were pregnant when I walked through here many years." She says, "I have a 5-year-old." I said, "Oh my gosh." So I went inside and I saw Kim and Becky, and I saw all these people, Jason. Anyway, I saw all these folks who were kind of like a community, kind of like you guys are. I saw them face to face, though, not just online. And so they said, "Are you still painting?" I said, "Actually, that's what I came to do." And I saw a friend I hadn't seen in a while, and she was in there with 2 of her little boys. Before they went on sabbatical, I'd given them some watercolor supplies, some journals, and a couple little brushes and concepts. And I went and spent an hour with the boys at the bar. They have 5 sons. And we sat there and we doodled together before they took off. And it was really fun. And so yesterday, the little boy, I had a bee. In fact, this bee was painted right there yesterday at the table. And he said, "I have a bee like that in my room." And I went, "I know you do, but do you still have it in your room? I know I gave you one." And he goes, "Yes." I said, "Let's paint another one, and I'll remind you how." So I went through the processes and the stages of me painting a bee. And then I did one real quickly on a piece of paper, and I gave it to him. And I said, "This one's for you to paint when you get home." So that prompted some other folks coming over, and I kind of held this off the cuff watercolor lesson right there in Chick-fil-A. It was about between 2 and 3. I'm having a late lunch. Nobody was in there. They're just all kind of looking for something fun to do, and they're still on the clock. And I'm thinking, how fun is this? So that was my day. I wound up painting 3 hours there, and so and that got me to thinking about what you're doing this summer to help spread your art. And that's what I want to talk about. So there. Skip Yentz, thanks for being on the show. Skip's here. Did you have copies of Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle? I have a couple. I would like to get 2 copies, but I'd like you and Pat to put your marks in them. Okay, I'll do this. Wow. Denise, would you send me that in an email? Maybe you have before, and I do think I have a couple copies here. Maybe. Okay. So I better check on that first. Let me make myself a note here. Noodle, Doodle, Fiddle, Piddle for Denise. 2. And if I got them all signed, I could send them to Pat, and she could do that. And then that way Pat and they would have enough money to buy a hot dog this month. I love it. Okay. Yes, you did. I love them. Feather and a bee. So, Donna, I did send you something. Good. I thought I did. Okay, great. All right. Bob 33. Bob, thanks for being on the show today. Terry Tardy Turquoise is in the room. Karen Crystal. I actually interrupted myself in the story. So, all right. I'm going to jump ahead here and let's do this again. It's sometimes like time hasn't passed. Yeah, isn't that true? Yes, I can send you an email. All right, perfect. So here's what I wanted to start with today. I want to know what you're going to do this summer. That's good. It's 30 days away, so start planning now how you're going to set up your summer to be. And all of you are going to take this challenge. It's not really a challenge. It's just the fact that you show up and you hear about art for an hour and you hear some old guy ramble about stories and people he connects with. Because I'm going to tell you this, art is art is art. I don't care if it's food. I don't care if it's music. I don't care if it's written word. I don't care if it's dance. It's art. And it certainly is painting. But if you're just piling it up in the corner, if you're sharing it with neighbors and friends, if you're creating a story, you're taking your art to the next level. So what are you going to do this summer that's going to take your art to the next level? And suddenly some of you just got cold chills and you just went, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, he's going to ask me to do something with my art. And no, I can ask all day long, but I'm not in charge of you. I just want to know if you're writing a children's book, which I have been for a long time, and I'm still writing some, and it takes a long time to do a book. I had Alan Levi on a couple weeks ago, and he said, it took me 3.5, maybe 4 years to write this novel. And then I'll get to where I'll turn the next one out a little quicker because I know how to keep in touch with my characters. And by the way, Alan and I sent notes back and forth yesterday, and I told him I was going to share a story out of his book. And by the way, I'm going to push it. If you haven't read Theo of Golden, and you ought to go back, and if you haven't seen the interview that Alan and I did, it wasn't great on my part, but that guy speaks his heart, and he has written it in here. And this book, believe it or not, is really about heart, but it's about art. It really is. It's got I got to read you something in just a little bit, because I was taken back Thursday night by standing in an art gallery and looking at a picture. And I'd seen it before, but I hadn't seen it on the wall in probably 5 or 6 years. And this gallery still has it. And they were having a 10-year anniversary, and Carol and I were invited to come and walk through their gallery again and just say hello and see friends. And boom, I've been there many times, but there on the wall was this painting. And it was drawing people in like it was magnetic. There's lots of art in this wall and on this gallery, but this one 4 by 4 foot painting, oil painting, pulled everyone in who looked at it. The lighting was good, but the lighting in the painting is spectacular. It may be one of my favorite oil paintings of all time, and it has an amazing price tag on it, and I'll never own it, and I don't need to own it. But even if I were wealthy enough to own it, I don't know if I would pay that much for it. But I thought this person is so talented, so skilled, and has such an eye for what she set out to paint. And it's a she. Her name is Susan, who painted this. I'm going to show you the picture, and then I'm going to read you something from this book, and then I'm going to talk to you about painting something and paint something and about what you're going to do this summer, okay? So that's my plan. Here we go. A cup of tea, and we're on our way. Sounds like a Carpenter song, A Kiss of Luck, and we're on our way. All right, here we go. Here comes, let's see, what I'm taking an in-house workshop at Cheap Joe's. Okay, fantastic. An in-house. You're going to be there. Whoa, that's great. Tell those people I said hello, Donna Buckley. If Megan is part of that and leading that, tell Megan I send my greetings. All right. Okay, I got my copy after the interview. Life has been crazy and haven't started reading yet. Okay, so you guys are, I'm in the process of reading the book now. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, I'm going to share a paragraph that I'm not going to rip the story off, but here's the book. It's called The Theo of Golden. But here's the piece of artwork I want you to see. Are you ready? Take a deep breath. Take a look at this. Boom. There it is right there. This is 4 feet by 4 feet. The box itself is probably in the painting. Look right here. It's probably 30 inches. Okay, so this box that you see is, here's my hands, 30 inches. Just do that. That's this box. This mason jar is a quart mason jar that's probably a little over actual size. Look at the ball mason jar. Look at the green and shadows and the brush bends. Look at the light and how this black canvas, this is just the canvas behind it. You see the golden edges are the box frame where this canvas is just slid in there. The brass, maybe this is a maple box or an old cherry or mahogany art box. Oh my gosh, the perspective is just outrageous. And I'm just going to tell you how much it is. It's 20 grand. But the mess, the style, the light, that says storyteller to me. Man, is that good. I just love it. You know, there's not a whole lot of realistic art that just blows my mind. And I've been to the museums in England and New York and, you know, the National Museum and the Dutch Masters. And I've been to Getty Museum in California. Look, those are phenomenal. Oh, in Washington, D.C., you know, the National Museum of Art. I love it. It's phenomenal what those people did in realism. But there's something about this one that says storytelling. It's like, I'm not there to impress you with pheasants and flowery tables, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with that. I love it that the Dutch masters had such a phenomenal talent. But this, in our time period, is a person who just painted this, and I just go, look at the shadow, anyway, blew my mind. So I got all excited about this and just said, it just is unbelievable. And to think that it's 4 feet by 4 feet, and it just, wow. Okay, so I want to read you something. In lieu of you just seeing that, I'm going to read out of Alan's book. Told him today I'm going to read a paragraph out of his book. This is not a short novel, by the way. This is it's 390 something pages. It's called Theo of Golden, and Golden represents the little town he lives in. The feather on the cover has a distinctive purpose, but here is just a paragraph. How is it, Theo wondered, that a piece of paper, a letter, a photo, a ticket stub, a sketch, a painting, is suddenly transformed by placing it in 4 bits of wood beneath a pane of glass? What does it mean that we place permanent boundaries around transient moments? What does it say to humankind that we take such trouble to freeze specific memories, that we devote such energy to capturing and preserving the minute particulars of our lives? He finds himself in the artist's home, and the artist takes a phone call, and he has about 10 minutes to wander around and just look at what this artist has done. And that's the italicized quote that comes to his mind. What is it that we take such pains to put these pieces of work together, these transient moments? Why do you do what you do? Why do I sit here and make whimsical drawings and sketches? Why do I do that? Why has it hooked me so? Why has it pulled me in, hook, line, and sinker? And the only reason I can think is because there's that innate source in me that wants me to be creative, but not just so I can selfishly be creative, but so I can share that creativity to others, be it just in my own style. Not to be ever as good as Susan has painted this art box. I'm not even close to that league, nor will I ever be close to that league. And I'd be depressed if I think I had to get that close to that league. We have the same heart to share art, but a completely different style. And that's what you have to conquer in your mind, to say, it is what it is. This is what I do. I connect this way. Now, so I'm going to challenge some of you who are digging into this deeper, and that you've created cards to give away and you're sharing your art. And so I wrote a couple things down to plan for this summer and I'm going to come and go this summer. I'm going to try and be on every Saturday I can. I got a little bit of travel, but most of the time I'm here. Couple times I'm going to do something I've never done before in my life. I'm going to go to the Grand Tetons, Lord willing. And my uncle said, and the creeks don't rise, I'm going to go see. I've never seen the Tetons, and I've never seen Yellowstone. And so I want to go see that. And then we're taking our granddaughter, then we're driving her back to Denver. We're flying out there to Jackson Hole. And then we're driving her back to Denver, a 7-hour trip, down into Fraser, Colorado, where she's a lifeguard at a camp there, Young Life Property. This is the granddaughter that you've even helped on a mission trip with one of my auctions a couple of years ago. And so that's her ministry heart. She's going to go do that. She's at a camp called Crooked Creek for a month, lifeguarding, before she comes back and then heads to Appalachian State. And in Boone, she'll be only about 2.5 miles from Cheap Joe's art stuff. So I'll have to go visit her quite often. So what are you going to do with your art this summer? So have you thought about painting something new? I'm still chasing. Like last year, or 2 years ago, I said I'm going to paint honeybees, and I've been doing honeybees. By the way, yesterday's bee, this one will be numbered on the show today, but yesterday's bee here's what I did at, this one wasn't numbered. This is the last one I did. Here's 1575. There's 1579. This is 1578, 77, 76. This is 70. A couple of them were given away in the process. There's a fishing fly. So I painted some bees yesterday. I did another lobster. And so I'm going to get my 2,000 bees in, and maybe I might get them in. I don't know if I get them in by the summer, but before Christmas, I'm going to get 2,000 in. This one's going to be 79. This will be 1580. Somebody's already asked for 1587. 1857. I think that's what it is. Yeah, got a little ways to go to get that one. So this one is 1580 right here. This is number 1580, and I'll give him a caption. But so that's what I'm doing. But what are you going to do this summer? Something new. Okay, so here's what I mean by that. Maybe you just need to play again and get started again. This is a piece of Kilimanjaro paper. And I'm going to show you what I did this morning real quickly, just by being creative with. I do this with school kids a lot, where I'll come in, and I'm not treating you like school kids, but I'm just telling you, there's a way for you to learn to do this very rapidly. And so you go, hey, make sure you pay attention to the kind of paper you're using. So I'm just going to take what I started with this morning, and I know that I'm going to paint a rooster on this. I just know I'm going to. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my colors in the style that I need colors. I know I've got to have red on his head, red on his wattle. I know I want some yellow on the neck and the beak. I want some black blue feathers. That's just kind of my style of rooster. You kind of know it when you see it. But what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to start with some water. And this water should be kind of dirty enough for you to see. Let me get in here so you can see the page. Yeah, there it is right there. So I'm just going to put some water in here, and I'm going to pile the water in. I'm not just going to try and paint the rooster out of water. I'm just going to put the colors in here and let them run together. So there's a pretty good shot of water right there, okay? You see that pile of water right there? Now I'm going to grab a little bit of red, and I know I'm going to put the red up here where the head goes, like so. Look, it's already running all over the place. I'm going to grab a little bit of blue, and I'm going to put that over here where the feathers go. Maybe a little more blue in here, just like that. I'm going to clean my brush out here real well. I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in here, just a touch for that, and then here, there. I'm going to put some green in it, and that's going to be spring green, I think, right there. I'm going to put some tardy turquoise back here. And so now I have this beautiful, I've already made a rooster really by just slamming my brush down. Is that not strange? You see it, don't you? See, that's what I want you to work toward this summer, just so you get so easy and good and relaxed at painting what you're painting that you don't get stressful in your shoulders and you just go, I just made that happen. And I'll tell you, you do this for a bunch of folks somewhere and they'll say, I don't understand how you painted it so quickly. And I'm going like, I'm not really painting, I don't think. I think you just saw me piling it in here. But watch what happens when I take just where's a nice little number 6 brush. Watch this. I'm going to wet this brush real well and just come in, and I'm going to start grabbing this and just bringing it into the feathers. Look at that right there. And just push it, letting the water chase itself down through there. And then look at all this stripe right here, this striation. I couldn't get that any other way. I'm going to grab a little yellow here, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to bring this in, and then I'm going to make his feet just right there like that. There's the foot. I'll go back. It's fine to load up. There's no rule. It's not that I can't go back and get more paint if I want it. So I'm going to get a little extra red, and I'm just going to push his comb up there like that. I'm going to clean my brush off. This would have been great with a little piece of music, how fast that worked, huh? Well, suddenly I have this beautiful little rainbow-looking roo that just kind of happened. I really didn't paint anything in the middle. I didn't even put my brush between here and here. See those two areas? And that's maybe the most beautiful piece in the painting. And so what are you doing that's pushing your limits just a little bit this summer? That could be one thing you could write down. Something original. I challenge you this summer to paint something that's original, that is not just looking at somebody else's painting and making a painting like they made. They've already made that painting. Like right now, for me to sit and spend the next 2 years deciding that I wanted to paint this would be kind of a waste of my time. One, because I would never be satisfied with it because this person is talented beyond my giftedness. Could I train to do that? Maybe in 5 years. The lighting, the shadowing, but it would still look different. And I love this one. My point is this. I'm not trying to just be another artist. I'm trying to be the artist that I'm supposed to be because I have my own story in me that has to be told to people. You see, why? Yesterday, as I went by Trader Joe's, I threw my bag up on the counter, and the lady who was checking me out, a small young lady, and short hair and tats and piercings, and she was just cool. And I said, hey. And she said, hey to you. And I said, here's my bag. She said, thank you for bringing in a bag. And I said, you bet. And I said, it's a bag like you've never seen. And she said, oh, no, I bet I've seen one like it. I said, no, you haven't. It's canvas, and it has the word grit written on the side. She said, what's a grit? And I said, you can't just eat one grits. She said, it's not grits, it's grit. I said, right. It's grit because it's grit. It's like the men and women who founded and went west and started farming the Midwest. They had grit. It's like the pioneers. And I said, this was a newspaper in the 1800s. And then in the early 2000s, it became a slick magazine. They stayed publishing, and it's called Grit. And it's a magazine. And she said, well, what's that have to do with this bag? And I said, well, I paint the last page for this magazine, and I've been doing it for 8 years or so. You know, they send me a list of what's going on the cover. She goes, that's the coolest thing. Are you an illustrator? And I said, no, I wouldn't go that far. I have friends who are much better at it than I am. I've illustrated my own books, but she said, oh, you write books. And so then the guy steps in, and so I said, really, I just doodle, and then it turns into a piece of art sometimes. And they all have stories. You have to hear this from me. My art must tell a story. And she said, she runs out a little piece of paper from the register. She said, doodle me something. And I looked around, and he pulls up, and my stuff's bagged there. You know, I had nothing that was frozen. It was all just fresh food. And so I said, she said, you're not holding anybody up. And so she said, you need a pen? And I went, no, thank you. I have a pen. She said, oh, that's a fancy pen. And I took out my Lamy pen. And then I said, but let me, if I do it on this paper, it's going to take a while to dry. Thank you for offering me this paper. But what if and I opened my little envelope, and I pulled out a little piece of watercolor paper like this one right here. And I said, okay, let's just do a rooster, because my grandkids call me Roo. My name means rooster, Han, and I'll just paint that. And so I started doing that. And so this guy goes, whoa, you're just so fast. I said, well, I don't have much time because I got to get home and get dinner fixed. I've been out all day painting anyway. And so one thing led to another. And then so I said, what's your name? And she said, Sunshine. And I went, seriously? So she said, and I signed it. She said, sign it. And I said, an artist always signs their work. So I signed it, Roodoodles. And she said, can I follow you at this? And I said, certainly you can, Sunshine. And she said, I'm going to bring you come back in, and I'm going to have a picture of this hanging on my board. And I said, great, thank you. I'm flattered. She said, no, this has made my day. And I said, brought a little sunshine into your life. And she smiled. The point is this. I drove home thinking, I'm going to go back in, I'm going to see Sunshine, and I'm going to say, did you name yourself Sunshine because Sunshine is such a cool name just to say Sunshine? Or did your parents name your Sunshine and say, we want our daughter to be named Sunshine, so she'll bring sunshine? And people's like, what? I want to know the story. And so that's when I'm going to go back and ask Sunshine one of these days. She's probably 20 years old, and you know, it's one of those stories where she says, I'm 20, and I go, hey, I've got socks older than you, and I've got them on. And so the whole story to me is, what are you going to do that brings a story out of your art this summer and something that's original to you? Consider doing that, those of you who want to take this challenge. Okay? There's nothing wrong with learning pastiche and painting what other people has done. Continue to do it and learn. Yes, my point is, what is the thing that you want to do? Is it a landscape? Is it a plein air? Is it something on your desk? Is it something as wacko as last week I painted this bolt that I keep sitting on my desk, and someone said, "Oh, that'd make a great painting." And so I just drew the bolt, and I drew a rooster standing on it. At the end of the show, I wrote, "Got a bolt." And someone said, "Oh my gosh, I love that painting. I want to have that painting." And so you never know what connects people and their story. So what is it that brings you the original? What's something that you've never done that you should do? Is it the Eiffel Tower? Is it a bridge? Is it Jason? Is it a building you've never sketched? Denise, is it a dog you've never approached, or is it one of your stories that makes a card? I have a new cup that Denise sent me that's called a cash cow, and the word cash, CACHHE, it's for their art community out there. And so my point is that what are you doing that something that pushes you? And I wrote a couple things down so I wouldn't forget. Something that allows you to take time. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some people this year. I just got called, and here's a couple that I just sketched. This was Carol and I the other night at the art thing when I was having these things that I wanted to talk to you about. And so I thought they called me and said, "Hey, do you do people?" And I said, "No." The art gallery called and said, "Do you do people?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, we want to do something special. It's our 10-year anniversary, and we want an artist sitting by the door. And when people come in, we're going to shoot a photo of them, and then we want someone to paint not a likeness, but just something that shows what they wore or something, and they can take it with them." And I thought it's a brilliant idea. But man, you got to go watercolor and you got to go fast. And so they found a young lady. I called two of my artist friends who I thought were great at doing that and who could short notice. And none of those could work out. And so they found someone and called me back and said, "We have someone. It's going to be fun." And so it was pretty fun. And most of them were little scenes like this. And so it made me think, because I sketch in my Bible journal anyway, I want to be better at painting people, just the shapes of people. I don't have to put their face likenesses in. Some of you are great at that. I've seen your portraits. That's not me. And so, which brought me to this. So write this down. Are you willing to take the challenge this summer of something new? This almost sounds like a silly rhyme, but I didn't mean for it. Something that's something that's new, something not blue. I'm not going to say that. Something that you've never done, maybe. Something that would push you, and then let's follow the rules of the whiskey painters. Whiskey painters paint on 4x5 pieces of paper, no bigger than 20 square inches. But maybe instead of just doing two, when you're a whiskey painter and you have your little paints and you pop them open, you do this. You paint one and you give it to someone who's sitting maybe there at the bar, the table with you, and the other one you're welcome to. One years ago, one had to be sent to Ohio, where the whiskey painters headquarters is. There's only 50 people in this organization that stays hidden behind the curtain, Wizard of Oz. The other one is, now if you paint one, you give it away, and then the other one you're welcome to sell or trade or do whatever you want to do with. But I'm saying, what if you painted 4 of these? What if you had one to keep? You go, like, I'm going to keep that. Like there's a bee in here somewhere that I'm just going to go, that's my bee. You know, at some point in time, I'm going to have, well, I almost have my bee right here. Believe it or not, this bee is number 800. And this is my bee. He's sort of the paint run on it. This is my bee. This bee is on my bee mug. And he's the one that stays on my desk for right now. 800 is my bee. I kind of like that bee. He just stays up there. And so I do have one of my bees. Yesterday while I was on the phone, I just painted this on the little flower on my desk. And that actually is my teacup set on there. And after I spilled some tea and turned my cup on it, the ink from the bee turned this brown, and then I just blew the rest of it and then ripped the page off. And so that was not numbered, by the way. That's not a bee that would probably go out. My point is this. Do one to keep, one to gift, one to show, and then maybe one to sell. And you're thinking, oh, no, nobody wants my art. Somebody does. Somebody would say, hey, I'd like to buy that from you and give it to someone who loves bees. Most of my bees are sold, and people keep one, and then they give the others away who, you will not believe the beekeepers I run into. Or I have a lady in Texas and a lady in Atlanta who says, I'm going to buy some of your bees. And so all these bees that I've just done are going to go with my other bees, and I'm going to reduce the price of them probably before Monday, but maybe even later today. And they just need to move. There's going to be 10 or I think there's 10 or 12 on there now, maybe less than that. But there'll be 10 or 15 on there today, and they just need to go. And these are on quality watercolor paper. This bee is close to being one of my favorites, and I might keep him for another hour. But then I think, no, I'm getting better as I go, and I like the looseness, and I like how I'm not being so detailed. I just like how they're coming together. I'm learning in my repetition. So this summer, that the reason I'm asking you to do this for repetition over and over and over, just to create a better skill and school at your craft. Okay, so that's my push for you today. I had a couple other things I want to share with you, and then I'm going to paint one more thing here this morning, and then I'll answer some questions. Let's see. Let me see if there's a couple other questions here. Hold on one second. Could you please paint a feather? Sure. Are you tired of painting bees yet? Terry Tardy, the answer to that is no, I'm really not. It's, and I'm gonna sound a little facetious telling you what I'm gonna tell you, but are you tired of throwing pots? No. You see what happens is that here's what happens. When that wheel is turning, Terry, and that mud gets centered, and you press down on that, and you feel that mud begin to lift, and then you realize you're giving it shape. That is not a tiring thing. Well, it'll make you tired, and you feel it in your muscles and your shoulders. I've tried it a couple of times. I made a bowl one time, and it weighed so much that the time you put milk in it, nobody could carry it around to eat out of it. So I've tried it. So I'm not finesse. I'm a blacksmith. It's hard for me to even do watercolor and have a light touch with brushes now. In fact, I might go back and do pottery now that I've been watercolor painting. I think I'd have a lighter touch. My point is that every time I do a bee and I see it start to appear in a different shape or form or over a flower or something like this, you see that little bee locked in there. And this one's all loaded down, heavy load headed home. This one, whoops, that's not a bee. What did I paint yesterday too? That was another bee. I painted a dragonfly and gave it away yesterday. This little bee on light paper. Here's a little bee on the thistle. I just love the contrast of that. So my point is that I'm not tired of them. I just see it. So now the feathers are a different thing. So I've just started painting these feathers, and they're tough. Alan and I had a long discussion because I painted some feathers back in 2002. Here's a little blue jay feather that I just did on that round paper that Donna sent me. And so here's some feathers, but they're all in the shape of a bird. I'm just kidding. And this is one of the early feathers that I did by just adding a lot of light touch and color. You can see it right there. There's just a little bit of, I just put that in the ink, I think, or the paint. This is a really loose concept of just which comes first, the veining or the color. And I think the veining in the way that I paint them does it. Then I go back and add a little more if I want to. So I'll try one for you here real quickly this morning. This is one that I just did out of brown ink, and I kind of like it. And this is, I'm not going to read you the caption on this one because that's going to go somewhere else, but that'll give you an idea. And that's with walnut ink that I did that. But let me just grab something here. Let's grab a little 6x6. This is what I wanted to show you to do today. This is something that I do sometimes when I don't know where to start, and I come in with a piece of blank paper in my studio, and I'll just pile in some colors, and then I'll just let it do what it needs to do. And so I get this very tie-dyed looking rooster that I was going to show you what I do sometimes to make a little detail come in. I'm going to grab this little Sharpie roller ball. It's an 05, and I'm going to come in. I think Pat sent me one of these. I wound up buying 3 or 4 more in a pack. And look at this. I'm going to come in right here, and I'm just going to come in. Once this dries a little bit, and it's still pretty wet here, but I can come around this, and look what I can do here. I can just come in and put a little bit of detail in here like this. And so I've had some kids say, hey, I don't understand how you get that paint so close to that line. And I go, well, I paint it and I draw the lines around it. And I don't always do that. You guys know I don't, because I don't care about where the lines are. And there's a little bit. So you see just a touch of detail here. And then if I just kind of shadow this down like this, just do some weird looking cross hatching around here like this, like so, and then cross that out just a little bit like this. Come back in with my brush, like so. A little more water. And then I'm going to grab some of this color up here. See that color? That's just riding shotgun up there in the painting. It's still there. And I'm going to let that be my shadow. And look at that little Roo right there. Wow. He's pretty cool, actually. I kind of like him. I like him a lot, actually. Now, watch this. I'm going to go back in here. This is, the paper now has done this, doodly-doodly-doodly, because of all the water that I piled in there. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to take some of this out right here. Just touch, 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 and lighten that middle up a little bit. I'm going to leave that to go dark. And I think I'm finished with that rooster. That'll let that turquoise shine through just a little bit more. I do see a little foot that I started. I'm going to add that little foot right here, just like this. And I'm going to grab some of this color and bring it in just to match the color of that leg. And then I'm going to just put a couple little marks in here, toenails, some cross hatching. And there's a little bit more that I'll do on this when it dries, just a touch more, okay? But I think that's that root's finished. And you saw how I did that. I just piled some water on, put the colors there, and brushed it to make the rooster appear. Why? Because I've painted 7,000-8,000 roosters. And yeah, I'm not tired of them either. So what are you going to paint new this summer? What are you going to do that's going to push you? What are you going to do in the way of a whiskey painter to give one away, keep one, give one, show one? What I mean by that, take it to somebody else who says, ooh, I'd like to carry your couple of your little pieces of art each week in my shop. That's a show. That's a sell to them. That's a mental sale. That's not a sell the art. That's a commission process. So what if you only get a few bucks? Did anybody notice that I did pen and ink yesterday and I sold them on my page just for consistency of having something out there on auction? And so somebody gave me $20 for my two little paintings. Okay, and people go, I can't believe you sold an original for $10. I'm going like, you can't believe I give away some sometimes that are worth more than that. This is about the story of connecting people with art. Do I make some money from my art? I hope so. I hope I sell more books. I hope Alan sells more books. I hope I sell more of my children's books. I hope I sell more of Noodle Doodle Fiddle Piddle. But the point is that most of that goes back into the storytelling thing. Do I eat out on that money? Sometimes I do. Yeah, that's kind of fun. Uh-oh, dropped my brushes here. All right, let's do a feather, and then we'll call it up my morning. Let me get out of here. Michelle Stafford said, I've seen a lot of other carrot shape tutorials, other suggestions. Carrot shapes are good for a certain amount of time, but then if I want to get a little more detail into my people, I think you're probably going to have to sit with an artist who draws people. You also can buy some books on anatomy and also just people like human figures. They don't have to be nudes. They don't have to, if you're, I don't need the muscle group and the bare person as much as I need the person with clothes and shirts on and that. There's some books out there that are available. Here's the thing about that. It's over and over and over. If you haven't had an art school or art class like I haven't had that. So for me, I'm working backwards. But I kind of like it. It's the cowboy pioneer way to just work backwards. Sometimes I kind of like that. Here's a little feather on this. This is Fluid 100 paper. Why 100? Well, it's cold press. It's 100% cotton also. I'm a fan of it. I'm not a fan as much as I am of Kilimanjaro paper, but I like it. I just want you to consider this summer those things. If you've made a note of those, or go back and watch this show, I won't have to repeat them again. And let's just do. What if I start with this pen? This is an 05 Intergel Pentel 05 needle tip, and let's do something here. light little line sweep across there, and I'm going to double it just a little bit. Then I'm going to go a little thinner as it goes up like that. Almost said I was. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start and let that be the top of or the bottom of the brush or the feather. And then without looking, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to create some that side. See that? I just did that, and I no rhyme or reason, except I don't want my feather to be too. I don't want it to be too symmetrical. So now what I think I'll do is I think I'm going to use the same pen, and I'm going to come in, and I'm just going to I'll get my head out of the way here. I think I'm just going to come in. I really notice I get down to my work. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, I'm just going to bring these in a little bit like this. Then little riffs. Everybody has their own way that they paint them. Some people use the watercolor first and then put the leads in. I like to bury the feather veining down underneath the color. I think it's in the back. You don't really see the veining of a feather until you get close enough to hold the feather in your hand. So it depends on your style. Notice what I've got here is I've got a little bit of darkness in here. I'm bringing this in just a little bit. This is not a blue jay feather. This is blue jay feathers tend to be a little rounder on top. If I were taking another 10 minutes with this, which I'm not going to do during this course of the show, I'd probably spend a little more time making these veins just a little more I'd take a little more caution probably and make them a little closer together, okay? And this feather is going to have a little bit of some dark spots in it. You know, the first thing you ought to just collect some. Some of you may have great ways to do this. I'm going to use a small brush, maybe a number, here I'll use the same number 6 I had. And I'm going to come in right now with just a light damp brush, if I can find my paper towel. And I'm just going to, I washed it out and I tapped it 1, 2, 3, take some of the heavy water out, and I'm just going to barely sweep this. I'm not going in heavy, I'm just literally scooting this brush across just like this. Just picking it up very lightly to let it just wander in there. And then I think what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to grab this blue. I think this is going to be, now let's just go with some brown, light brown here. Just go with a little brown on this feather. So now you know I'm going to have a darker feather because I let that pen bleed, and then I'm bringing this in. And look, I literally, your amount of water and your amount of paint always matters. Gosh, you can always add paint. It's hard to take paint out. I'm going to put a little rust in this if I can. Let's see what's going to be rusty. I'm going to add a little bit of orange to this, and then I'm going to add a touch of green right here on this top of this orange right there. And I'm going to go for some rust. See that? That just kind of got me a little rusty brown there. A little Payne's Gray, Donna, is going to come in right here over the shadows that I did just a little bit. Let those boost in just a little. Donna asked this about, and then maybe this down here needs a little more. I'm just getting a little blue. So this, I'm stacking up some colors, but I don't want too much. So I just touched it there. We're going here. What I need now is a tool that I don't see up here, so I'm just going to use the handle of a little brush. Here's one right here. I'm just going to use the handle of this little brush, and I'm just going to push some of this out here just like this. Just maybe a little more of this Payne's Gray right in against the veining here, just like this. So I suddenly have this little feather that doesn't look too bad, actually. Grab a little of that brown now and come in over this blue, because blue looks a little bit out of place. Okay. All right. This is probably now the 8th or 10th feather, maybe 9th or 10th feather that I've ever done. So, you know what? I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to paint a few more of them. And I'm going to, that may be what I learned to paint this year, because I've got another little idea for a book that I'm working on. And so, now what I might do just to change this and make it a story feather is that I might just take and throw a little bit of orange in here, just like this. And now you're going, what kind of bird is that? And here's the thing. It's kind of like I do my fishing flies. Look, I'm not going to paint a bluebird as well as God paints them. And I love those birds. I'm going to do my own little style, the baby fuzzy bluebird, but I might paint a bird feather like you've never seen before, and I might create a story around that feather. And that's kind of more of the style that I kind of do. I gravitate toward creating that. And so that'll give you an idea of what I'll do. I've probably done a dozen feathers now when I think about it. I'll count them up one day and see. I think there's 3 or 4 posted, or maybe more than that posted. So here's several of mine that I just have laying here on the desk and give you an idea. So this dog can hunt, as they say. Whoops, let me get him over there. This is the one I just did. See that little orange in there? When you look at that, I like the looks of that. I might take a fountain pen and come back in here. And by the way, I tried not to let my ink get into the vein. I left the vein, kind of that membrane, sort of white, which is kind of fun to see in feathers sometimes. And try not to make it, Chip and I were talking about feathers this week, and sometimes they can get like this one, too muddy. It's just too much mud in here. And then if you go back and try to put white paint in there, it dulls down everything else and makes it. Let your paper be your white. So go light at first, okay? Light as a feather. See, you see where I was going with that, didn't you? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that gives you just a little idea. And see how the end of this blue jay feather has a little bit of just some white. That's really a little gray over the white, and then it has a little bit of just some veining coming in. And this one's really light in the veins. You don't even hardly see them too much. Could I use a Rapidograph pen or a 0.001? Yes, I could. But it would take me longer, and I don't have the patience to just sit down and do too many feathers. So this one is just completely avant-garde, but I kind of like it. It's kind of my style. This is what I call the roof feather right here. All right, so hope that was helpful, Donna. Let's see. All right, so here we go. It's about time for me to get out of here. But did I have one more thing on my piece here? Yeah. Why do you want to give away your story? The same reason you want to give away a recipe. The same reason you want to give away a cobbler you made. Well, maybe give away a pie, eat the cobbler. The same reason that I have men come to my house and I make biscuits and gravy. Why? Is it good for you? Heck no. But you know what? They don't get it at home, and they didn't grow up on it, but they think about it in the South, and they go, could I just get some biscuits and gravy and one of those Julia Child omelets? And I go, you bet. Have a seat at my table. And so that's where a conversation happens about life and love and art and children and faith, and all that happens at the table. And that's the place where my art has when I go out to a restaurant and I paint at the table. Yeah, it's looks a little bit egotistical sometimes to some, but it's a place to share a story. If you're a fruit tree, you give away the apples. If you're a strawberry patch, you give away the berries, or you make a business out of them. So think about small art again this summer. This is 6x6, by the way, and that's a great little fun piece to take off on. I did some on that yesterday. There's the same piece of paper, just had it in my book. By the way, I've told y'all some about this. Where is it? Rats. Oh, here it is. This has become, I've carried my art book that has a cover on it like this one around for years and years and years, well, different ones. Kilimanjaro now is offering that same paper in a bright white, and it's just fabulous, fabulous paper. And it's size-wise, here it is. You have to make sure you get the right number. There's natural, it's 5.5 by 8. And so once it cuts right here, it's about, so you can do a 5x7 out of this brilliantly. And this is great paper, 140 pound Kilimanjaro, 100% cotton. And it's just in a little bit of a smaller journal. They make this one and they make a natural. So depending on if you want natural white or if you want the bright white, and they didn't do this for a long time. All the bright white was in their bigger books, the 9 books. But here's the thing about 9-inch art and 9.5-inch art, or I think the book is even 5.5 by 10. You can split it in half. A lot of people do that. But I find that I just take the center out of this, tape the edges. This is a great size for me. So if you're going to buy this from Cheap Joe's, make sure that you sell them bright white. It's the black journal with paint book with bright white, if you want bright white. I love it because I think my American Journey paints pop off of that very quickly, okay? So, all right. I'm going to roll on out of here. I thank you, everyone, for jumping in. Sheila Nelson, you've been on my heart, your family, and so I pray you're well. And so I'll send you a note. I almost sent one early this morning. I got carried away. All right. Donna, keep painting those. Hey, take some of that Payne's Gray and do some feathers. You'll love it, okay? Start in your own style. Don't do it this way just because I said you had to. Do it because this is sort of the way I do it. There's that feather again. And you see he's got a little tinge of blue and green in it, and it's kind of a nice little feather. If I wanted to shadow that in 30 seconds I got to go here, I would just probably come in here and drag a little of this pen out just like this, and then come and get my clean brush and just swipe this little and just let that be the only shadow that's out there. Maybe that's a pen, and maybe, maybe I'm just going to write a note right there, and that'll be my painting for today. I'm out of here like a herd of turtles. Appreciate you all. Blessings. Take a sip. Think of your notes from this morning, and think of how you're going to share an art story, and think of who you can send a text to right now just to encourage them before you go on to your day. Blessings to you all. I love that I get to leave with an orchestra.